Let's go back to our main news. The government shutdown in the United States, which means that thousands of workers are waking up this morning facing the prospect of not being able to go to work because the government doesn't have the money to pay them. Let's bring in our US correspondent Rajini Vaidyanathan live in Washington for us. Quite an extraordinary turn of events, isn't it, Rajini? We've been here before, but generally it's been thwarted. But this morning, workers are facing the prospect that the world's biggest economy doesn't have the cash to pay them.
That's right. Now, the effects of this shutdown might not necessarily be seen immediately. It will be when they won't get their paychecks in the next few weeks, for example, that they may well really feel the hit. In terms of today, well, we're in the centre of Washington, D.C., by some government offices, and we've just seen one man that's spoken to us who told us he's going in today just to clean his desk, effectively, because he doesn't know how long he will or won't be at work for, because we don't know how long this shutdown may last. And another government worker we spoke to earlier said that she'll be going in for 4 hours today to call her contacts and, as I say, just tidy her desk. And that is the sense here. So it's not necessarily the case that you'll see hundreds of thousands of workers being sent home as such today, but in the coming days they will be told not to come in, and that's where you will see an effect on services and on the way governments run here.
And behind the real life impacts there is a political battle going on over healthcare. When might this be resolved? How long might this go on?
Well, that's a very good question, and I wish I could answer that. The building behind me, US Congress, is one government building which is open for business today. And again, we're expecting that bill that's been passing between the House of Representatives and the Senate to be voted on again. But it seems to be that there's no let-up at the moment. The House of Representatives has voted for a bill which includes delaying Barack Obama's flagship healthcare reforms. The Senate doesn't want that. So you're in a situation where until one side blinks and decides to cave in, we look like this shutdown will continue. And of course there are longer term issues here. There is also a big battle coming up at the middle of this month over raising the US's debt ceiling so that it can afford to pay interest on its debt. And that is a bigger one as well, and that is something that is in the background of all of this too. The question that some Republicans, such as senior Republican Senator John McCain, is effectively answering when people are saying, well, who will cave in? He said, well, we can't win. But it's his colleagues in the House of Representatives that really need to change their minds.
Thank you, Rajini.
Well, let's speak to our correspondent in Washington, Rajini Vaidyanathan. An extraordinary situation. How long could this go on for, and what can be done to break the deadlock?
Well, people really don't know the answer to that first question, Sophie. Some government workers were arriving to their offices this morning and are still arriving, and that's just to clear their desks. They don't know how long they will be away from work now that a shutdown has begun. Now, one office which is open is the one behind me, the US Congress, where deliberations will continue again today to try and end the deadlock. Now, economists say that they fear that the growth in the US economy could be cut if this shutdown does go on a number of days. And this all coming at a time when the American economy is making a recovery. And as Richard mentioned in his report just then, this is all a build-up to a bigger battle ahead. In a few weeks' time, the US government will run out of money to pay some of its bills and interest on its debt payments unless politicians can agree to raise the so-called debt ceiling. Now, the problem is, if they can't agree to this, there are fears that they won't agree to that. And if that happens, then America could default on its payments, and that would be catastrophic, not just for the country, but for the world economy.
Rajini, thank you very much.
Good afternoon and welcome to BBC News. Now it is 9 o'clock in the morning in Washington. Hundreds of thousands of American workers are facing having to stay at home without pay because Republicans and Democrats in Congress failed to agree a new budget. Let's go to Rajini Vaidyanathan, who joins us from there now.
Well, welcome to Washington. And it is early morning here, and some workers who work for the federal government are still arriving at their offices here. And that is simply to check in and close things down now that a shutdown has begun. Now, no one knows how long this shutdown will go on for. It began at midnight last night, and that was following intense negotiations between politicians here on Capitol Hill, between Republicans and Democrats and the House and the Senate, trying to get them to agree on a budget plan. And my colleague Richard Lister reports on the ins and outs of what happened.
Late into the night, the row which has paralysed Congress raged on. Republicans and Democrats battled over the president's healthcare reforms right up to the last minute, each blaming the other for the looming shutdown.
I talked to the president earlier tonight. I'm not going to negotiate. I'm not going to negotiate. We're not going to do this. Well, I would say to the president, this is not about me, and it's not about Republicans here in Congress. It's about fairness for the American people.
I, for one, don't want to see a government shutdown.
Driving this dispute are the Tea Party Republicans, a right-wing minority who won't approve the budget unless Democrats change the Obamacare program, which they won't.
It is embarrassing that these people who are elected to represent the country are representing the Tea Party, the anarchists of the country, and the majority of the Republicans in the House are following every step of the way.
Ayes 54, nays 46.
Will also not be seen immediately. It will be when they're not collecting their paychecks that they will soon realise and feel that impact. And as I said just then, there are people who are still coming in today just to wind things down. But the reaction across America has also been quite marked, as we have been finding out.
I think it's very disappointing to me, because it's kind of sending a message that the government cares more about their parties and their bipartisanship.
The government will work it out. It's a political move. It's happened in the past.
GOP is blackmailing the American people, and I don't think it's fair to do that over, Obamacare.
That's some of the reaction we've been getting from across America. Now, one government building which is very much open is the one that you will see over my shoulder, and that is the US Congress. And they will be meeting today, politicians there, to continue their deliberations to see if they can come up with a deal. But it really is about getting one side to blink. And at the moment, Republicans in the House of Representatives are still holding firm and saying that they will only back a budget plan if plans to delay President Obama's flagship healthcare reforms are written into that. And that is something that the Democrats won't agree to. So really it is a sense here that someone needs to back down. And we have heard from senior Republicans such as Senator John McCain saying at the end of the day he doesn't think the Republicans will win this. But as long as people hold firm, then at the moment it's unlikely that we will see this being resolved any time soon. Now, what is also interesting is, as my colleague Richard Lister said in that report just then, the impact this could have on the US economy and the US standing in the world. And we've been hearing from senior politicians, including the Secretary of Defense, Chuck Hagel, who says this really could have an impact on the standing of America globally. And of course, this is all a prelude to something else quite interesting. Now, there is another bigger debate coming up, the debate over raising the debt ceiling. And that is another thing that really has an impact, because if the debt ceiling is not raised, there is the risk that America will default on its payments, effectively not be able to pay its bills. And that could have huge implications for the global economy. Now, I'm just going to see, we have a worker here. No, she's not able to talk to us. I apologise there. We were hoping to speak to somebody who is affected by this. But we will hopefully be able to talk to people as they stream out of the offices behind me, having checked into their offices today and will be sent home later on. That's it for now in Washington, but we will be back with the developments here from Capitol Hill and from ordinary workers throughout the day.
Rajini, thank you very much. Rajini Vaidyanathan there in Washington. We'll